are also trying to engage others trying to come in. So while they are doing that, I would like us to do a brief introduction, and for coordination, I will be at the comment section. So if you are joining, you can please type your name, your location, where you are joining from, and if you have any special reasons why you joined, in terms of what knowledge do you intend to gain from today's session. You can drop that. I will be at the comment section, and I'll be taking as much as I can before we start. So if we can do that in the next 2 minutes, I'll be glad. And while we are also admitting more people into the webinar. So please go to the comment section and insert your name and where you're joining us from, and also the reason why you took interest in this topic. So I'll be there. And if you also want to share out the name of your company, and that would also be good. So I'll try as much as possible to read out as much as I can before we start the program in full. Once again, welcome to this great session. Okay, I'm having Mr. Offin Theophilus. He's joining from Lagos State. You are welcome, Mr. Theophilus. I also have Mr. Nelson, and he's saying, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to take part in this meeting. Yes, thank you for also joining. Please, I also want more comments to come in so that we can take as much as possible. Okay, very good. I have Mr. Kenichuku Ezedima. Thank you for joining. He's joining all the way from River State, and he's looking at getting insights on how sustainability data affects organization, either positively or negatively. Yes, we also have Ms. Grace Balogun. She's a sustainability associate at Parallel Consults, joining in from Lagos State. You're highly welcome, Ms. Grace. So we are having some sustainability experts also joining us on the call. That's a great one. Okay, Mr. Theophilus has updated us with some information. He works with Chi Limited. He's here to learn and unlearn. That's a good one. He wants to add more knowledge to his knowledge tank. So we hope you're able to achieve that, sir. Yes, we have Mr. Adetola Idowu. He's also a sustainability officer, and he's although he did he's joining us all the way from Lagos State, and he works with 7 pillars. So please, can you please confirm? Yeah, please, someone should just signify if they can hear me, so that I can proceed. Hello.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, we are having a lot coming in, but I'll just say how much I can take within the first and the next 2 minutes, then we can jump right into the core conversation of today. Yes, we are having Mr. Inaji Augustus with Charis Farm Limited, joining all the way from Anambra State. You are most welcome. We also have I don't know, just mentioned Mayowa Shobo from Haiti. I don't know if he's a Mrs. or a Miss or a Mr., but you're welcome. Mayowa wants to improve knowledge on sustainability and how what kind of sustainability data I need for my NGO. Okay. Yes, we're having Mr. Ubong all the way from Dangote Coal Mine in Benue State. You're highly welcome, Mr. Ubong, and it's good to have you here. He's joining to gain more insights on how sustainability data can affect his organization. Yes, I think that is, wow, more are still coming in. Okay, so for now, let me go back to my slide. So basically, this program is being brought to you by Chevron Consulting Limited. And Chevron Consulting Limited is a health, safety, security, and environmental consultancy and training company. We offer our services to clients anywhere in the world. Yes, we have our headquarters in Lagos State, and we have our branches in Port Harcourt. We have in Lagos, we have in Ghana, South Africa, and in the UK. And basically, it is our intention to bring a lot of sensitization to everyone in terms of sustainability and how it's gaining momentum in Nigeria. So my name is Daria Yodile, and I'll be your host for today. And today on our guest list, we are having two great speakers. We're having Mr. William Asim Atta, and we are also having Mr. Abiola Oshiniyin, and they will be joining us to give us a greater insight into today's topic. They are experts in the field, and I know that from their wealth of wisdom and experience, they will be able to give us more insights. Wow, we are having someone joining us all the way from Qatar, Julius Teacher, you're welcome. We're also having another person, Mr. Richard Asante, works with generic engineering technology, and also a board member of IAS HEP US. He's also joining us all the way from Qatar. Yeah, welcome, sir. Okay. To kick off today's webinar, we'll be having our first speaker. His name is Mr. Williams Asim Atta. He will be taking the first topic. He will be giving our first discussion on the subject matter. And just a little brief about Mr. or Engineer Williams. So Engineer Williams, obviously, he's an ESG consultant. He's a trained chemical engineer and a currently MBA student at Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU. He has 2 decades of cumulative practice and experience in diverse fields, including brand communication, procurement, CSR, which means corporate social responsibilities, HSE, health, safety, environment, engineering, and environmental sustainability. He's bringing a wealth of expertise to the table. He's a seasoned consultant and a dedicated team player. Mr. William possesses an acute attention to details. His unwavering commitment to exceptional service delivery positions him as a resourceful problem solver, trusted consultant, implementer, and auditor for organizations seeking expertise in business, branding, ESG, sustainability, and technical projects. He is also a registered engineer with Current, and with other professional bodies such as NSC, ISSP, and ACRON, in addition to other expertise in wastewater management. So without um, further ado, I would want you to help me welcome him with a clapping ovation as he takes over from me now to start the session. You're welcome, Engineer Williams Asim Atta.
Thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dari, for the introduction. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon, and I hope that the few moments we're going to share together, we'll be able to get one or two things with respect to the subject. Please, can you see my slide?
Yes,
yes,
we can.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So I have 20 minutes to deliver this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I hope I'll try. I'll try my best. Okay. So the subject before us this afternoon is how sustainability data can drive organizational growth. And I just want to take us through what we'll be discussing in the few minutes we have. We'll just look at briefly on definitions. Thereafter, we look at the introduction, how to collect the sustainability data, when, and all of that. So I'll just start by, I know that we have a mixed audience here, and I've tried as much as possible not to assume that everybody here is an ESG person. So that's why, so pardon professional colleagues, pardon me if I'm bringing it, if I'm watering it a bit lower so that everyone can be carried along. Thank you very much. So I would proceed with definitions. So I'll proceed with definitions. So the word sustainability, I'll start from there. Sustainability is a word that has become a buzzword today. Everybody's talking about sustainability. And in a literal definition, I'll just say sustainability is is ability to sustain. That's just the literal and simplest definition of it, is the ability to sustain. But in practice, we want to look at the current trends, and we are saying that sustainability is something that gives the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. It encompasses a balance between the ESG, that is considerations, aiming to promote a long-term resilience and well-being. So it syncs the environment aspects, the social expectations, and the governance input to make sure that the environment, the business, and everything around the ecosystem is sustainable. The next word I would like to talk about is data. I believe that at the end of this session, these slides will be shared, so that I would like to move a bit faster so that we'll be able to cover ground. So I'd like to, while we're taking that time to define these terms, just for us to make sure that everyone is carried along. So data, what is data? Data refers to information collected, analyzed, and organized for specific purposes. So we are hearing that this is the data age. Data is about information. What do you do with information? You collect information for what reason? To analyze, to use it to propel informed decisions for businesses, corporations, and even personal use. I would move to the next. I'll move to the next slide. So the next one I'm talking about, the term I'm talking about there is drive. In a general sense, drive refers to the force or motivation that propels something forward. Drive is forward thinking, is forward focus. But in the context of sustainability and business, drive can mean inspiring, leading, or encouraging progress in a specific direction. So we'll discuss that in the course of this webinar. Then organization is another word I'd like us to talk about, which is a structured group of individuals working together to achieve some common goals. That's just a literal understanding of what organization is all about. And the last word there is growth. Growth refers to the process of increasing in size, value, or capacity over time. So in business context, growth can refer to several metrics, such as revenue, profits, customer base, market share, and the likes. And growth can be subjective because your growth of your company and that of my company may not be the same thing, because some people have mid-term goals, short-term goals, and long-term goals. So we may not really know the expectations of your company. So it is a subjective matter. So people can grow by 1 million naira, and that is a big. Whereas some people grow by 100 million, and it looks as if it has not even scratched the surface. So it's a bit subjective. And together, these definitions and terminologies outline a framework for understanding on how sustainability can drive organizational growth through data-driven strategies. Sustainability provides a guiding principle, and data serves as the information source, represents the motivation to act. Then organization defines the structure for action, and growth, which is the last thing, is the ultimate outcome of successful sustainability efforts and products. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking about, the final output is what matters. Nobody cares to know what you are doing internally, but it's the results that cancels every insult, both personally and in the business space. We'll proceed. How sustainability data can drive organizational growth. In this webinar, I will attempt to go beyond how, but delve into when, how, where, and the type of sustainability data to collect that will trigger organizational growth. I know that we have a mixed audience, and some of us here are here to know what it's all about. Some of us here are already collecting this data. Some of us here want to synthesize. Some of us here want to get more insight. So this webinar tends to cover all of these, and I believe that with my other speaker, we'll also touch some selling points, and that will help us all to have a holistic understanding of the subject. I proceed. Introduction. Enhancing sustainability data for organization growth. In today's world, sustainability is not just a moral imperative, it's a business strategy. Organizations increasingly realize that sustainability can drive growth, increase competitiveness, and foster long-term resilience. To achieve this, companies must collect and analyze sustainability data to guide their decisions and demonstrate their commitment to environmental, social, and governance goals. This presentation explores how organizations can leverage sustainability data to drive through focusing on key matrices and elements and data collection on how, when, where, and what type of data to collect. So, how to collect sustainability data? Very important. How do you collect sustainability data? How do we collect sustainability data? Sustainability data collection involves various methodologies and tools. Organizations can adopt the following approaches. 1, surveys and questionnaires. This is a common thing when we pass through school, when we're doing our projects. We did a lot of questionnaires, surveys to gather information. So it's the oldest and one of the easiest way of collecting data. To collect information from employees, customers, stakeholders, to gauge the attitude and behavior regarding sustainability practices. And I would like to say something before I proceed, that data can be classified into two, in which we have the quantitative data and the qualitative data. The quantitative data has to do with numbers, metrics, while the qualitative data is talking about non-numeric valuations of information. In the course of this webinar, we'll get to see some of those instances. Another way of collecting data is sensor technology, using the Internet of Things, to monitor energy usage, waste production, emissions, and other environmental matrices in real time. This is a very fantastic innovation from the IT world, and it's very, very useful in today's data collection. We also look at another approach which we can use to collect data is the life cycle assessment, analyzing the environmental impact of products and services through their life cycle from raw material to disposal. And for those of us that are in the tech or in the engineering or in the science field, we know that we have logbooks whereby if you're working in a plant, we have logbooks, and those logbooks, those numbers that you put there, some people think that's a boring thing. The numbers there serves as a control measure to stabilize the operation. So when the numbers start going abnormal, it will trigger a signal for the process to be balanced. So, for example, you do an hourly log of a process. What is the flow rate? What is the temperature? What is the pressure? You see all those gauges, and sometimes some technicians and engineers move around. You just think these people are just going around doing nothing. I'm telling you that what they are doing is data collection, and it's very, very important for the operation and successful delivery of any process. Another point here is how to collecting sustainability data is third-party audits. For those of us who are still also working in plants and firms that have to do with technical things, we find out that we have a lot of international standards that we align to. For example, the ISO 14001, which is the environmental management systems. You have the ISO 45001, which is the occupational health and safety management systems. We have a lot of management systems that we use as international best practices to make sure that the process is in compliance with sustainability standards, and it also gives room for improvement by looking at those. So when you have a standard an audit is simply for you to benchmark what you are doing with the intended standard. Then you can now identify the gaps, and those gaps are where you need to go back and do your homework and to make sure that those gaps are closed, if not totally, but minimally to the barest minimum. So the next point on how to collect data is data management systems, which is implementing softwares or platforms that can help track and manage and analyze sustainability data across the organization. When to collect sustainability data? If you ask me this question, I'll tell you it's yesterday or 10 years ago. Sustainability data, collection of data is very, very imperative for any organization. When to collect it? When to collect sustainability data, organizations should collect sustainability data regularly to track progress, identifying trends, and set benchmarks. And key timing consideration includes 1, baseline assessment. You conduct initial assessment to establish your baseline for the matrix. What is the baseline assessment? Baseline assessment is a benchmark that is used to know the lowest minimum of what is acceptable. You know, some things are not acceptable, right? But we tend not to know some things are not acceptable. So that's the barest minimum of the practice of the field which you find yourself. Number 2 is continuous monitoring. That's going to collect it, because continuous monitoring, you implement real-time data collection to monitor ongoing sustainability performance. I said that before, that when you're seeing people going around taking logs, those data are for continuous processes, for a continuous process, and for continuous improvement, and for stability of the process. Another when to collect sustainability data is when you have AGMs or annual reports or sustainability reports. It's a collection of sustainability data annually to report to stakeholders, investors, and regulatory bodies on why and what the company has been doing over time. So these figures that we see, even though some people already have biased opinions on reporting, I tell you, whether the report is greenwashed, sandwashed, or whatever wash you want to call it. The information there, like I tell people, that in every nonsense, there's always a sense. If not, that word nonsense will not emerge in the first place. So let's lay our hands on annual reports to get data about what the company is doing. You can also see trends on how that company is doing to effective data collection. Another sustainability data collection method can be event-based data collection. When you're gathering your information in events, when I mean events-based, so events like product launch, we are having sustainability initiatives, or you are celebrating World Environment Day or something. There are events that would bring about, I'll come up, that will be able to put your data in check and know that, oh, we are doing well here, we need to improve here, and we need to take it up. So let us move a bit faster because of our time. I'm looking at my time now, and I think I'm lagging a bit. So who should collect sustainability data? Who should collect sustainability data? If you leave me, I'll tell you everyone to collect sustainability data. But let us see who should collect sustainability data. And number one on my list is sustainability teams. A sustainability team encompasses of you have sustainability manager, the HSC team, everyone that is in line production in that technical space, as far as I'm concerned, a sustainability team. But I don't know what's happening in the field. So many times there's this kind of discrimination. No, I'm not sustainability, I'm this. But anyone that is contributing in the value chain is part of the sustainability team. So even though your nomenclature of your title or your job description may not carry that name sustainability, but you are part of the team. The second set of people that should collect this data are operation managers. They're responsible for collecting this data, analyzing operations to see how best we could save time. You know, when we talk about the Sigma and the Lean Sigma and all of that, they're looking at how to optimize the system in operations to make sure that raw materials are not wasted, there's no time lag and all of that. So these are people that really need this data. Then some people will be surprised to see this, that human resource is very, very key in sustainability data collection. Now, apart from engagement, diversity, and inclusion, it's also your KPIs should also be set alongside sustainability involvement, because your being integral in that company makes room for the progress of that company. So if you're not injecting your A game and your 100% to the company, then maybe the little aspects which you are handling may cause the company to suffer a very heavy loss. So human resource is part of the collectors of sustainability data. Supply chain managers, they gather information on suppliers. And we look at today, we're talking about sustainable procurement. A few days ago, I was one of the speakers in the Chartered Institute of Purchases and Supply. And you find out that organization, they are seeing sustainability as a very, very serious topic and a concern, which was their main theme for the topic of this year. And it was talking about how sustainable, how project managers should make sure that they put themselves in that space of understanding what sustainability is all about. And they gather this information and make sure that vendors, agents, third parties, they are all involved to make sure that this process is properly adhered to. Then finally, the owners of the company, the executive leadership, they are the number one people that will give us that buy-in. So if you don't have the buy-in of executive leadership, I'm sorry, you may not really do anything, because you will not get the adequate support that you need for that sustainability initiative to be taking place in the environment or in the organization. Where to collect sustainability data? Where to collect sustainability data? Very important. Are we following? Are we following? Hello?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. Where to collect sustainability data? Where to collect sustainability data is is something that we have to know some touch points where we can get this. First of all, facilities and operations. They monitor energy consumption, water usage, waste production, emissions in offices and factories, from emissions from scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. These are things that facilities and operations, they collect this data. This data is what they use to benchmark and see if not the ISO standards that they're operating may be withdrawn. And some of us know that, for example, QMS, quality management system, there are expectations that you need to meet, and you need to have documented evidence for you to make sure for that standard that you claim to have implemented in your company to be valid. Without that standard, some people cannot practice, cannot even they'll shut down the business. So it's a very, very important data that has to be collected here. Supply chain, as I said earlier on, the supply chain is doing access to sustainability practice of supply, including the environmental and the social impact. So from your logistics to driver operations to manage supply, everything about in that value chain has to be in conformity with the sustainability matrix that has been set by the company. So we also have the employee engagement. That's another way to collect the data. So how do you engage with your employees? Collect data from them, questionnaires, inclusion, diversity in the workplace, and you see to know how best you can take care of their needs and what they need and what they want, and how management also in the other arm can also make some amends to see how we have a harmonious coexistence as a company. So that's very, very important. And customer feedback, very key. Customer is king. You know, there's a saying that said that the customer can sack from the CEO down to the security man, and that's very true. So we knew what happened to when you have a negative feedback from the customer. So gather this information and see how you can change and make sure that things are working as planned. So community impact, very key. Your host communities if they don't give you that enabling environment to work and to operate, then I tell you, you will not be in business. So this information and this data are very, very key. And that's why I was speaking about the qualitative and non-qualitative and the quantitative data. Some of these things falls in the different arm of the divide. Types of sustainability data to collect. You know, what are the types of sustainability data you need to collect? What are the types? You know, there are many types, but I just decided to streamline this into the ESG framework. So we'll have the, you know, data. As you can see this slide, you have representation of how things are. So data can be expressed. Thank God we are in the age of data now. So the data is being expressed in different landscapes. You see a lot of infographics. So many reports now are having a lot of infographics. You see a lot of charts. You see a lot of illustration on how data is being communicated, and that also makes it appealing to the sites of the end users, so and the stakeholders. So I'll proceed. So the types of data to collect. Organizations should collect a wide range of sustainability data to gain a comprehensive understanding of their impact, identify growth opportunities, and key types of sustainability data include: one, you know, I said I cascaded this into three, which is the ESG, the environmental data, the social data, and the governance data. And most of the time, the environmental data are quantitative data. We talked about the energy consumption and efficiency. There are a lot of metrics that we need to set here. You have the carbon emissions and carbon footprint. We talk about the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 carbon emissions. We talk about the waste production and recycling rates. These are data that needs to be kept jealously and for audits. Water usage and conservation, very, very important, because this is also an SDG concern on water, and biodiversity and land use impact, very, very important. How you know, we're seeing a lot of climatic changes are happening in our sphere, because biodiversity is seriously threatened. So many of the plants and animals are being removed from their natural habitats, and we are now seeing, and not just that, and also the effect of man on the earth is also contributing to this, and is giving a serious concern. And so environmental data is very key. We look at social data. Social data speaks to employees. Please, for those of us that are not science-based, that is where the problem we have in sustainability practice. Because some of these things, especially from the environmental part, those are those that are not science inclined, we really tend not to understand some of what we are saying. And some people tend to play down on this information, but those in the manufacturing and oil and gas and in the tech would understand more of this and the implications of this. But social cuts across everyone now. So social, it's employee engagement and satisfaction. Are your employees satisfied? Is there a synergy between their work environment and the expectations? Is remuneration coming at time? Do we have promotions? Is there anything to look forward to? What is the career path? These are things that employees will want to know to get. So this data, this information is very key for us to keep. We also have diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a matrix that we need to also provide and keep. Then the health and safety records. This is very important, because we talk about zero incidents, 0 days in occupational health and safety, and some people say it's a lie. How can somebody tell me that in the whole of this factory there was no injury, there were no near misses, and we're doing this and that and that? These records are good to be collected, and when you collect these records and this data, at the end of the year, you kind of pull down and analyze this data and see how far you've fared as a company. And community engagement and impact, very key. Your engagement with the community, especially the host community, is very key. And that is the reason why you have a lot of CSR projects, you have a lot of initiatives going on to take care of the host community in terms of skill acquisition, sport intervention, town hall, medical interventions, and the likes. So you, as a responsible company, organization, you need to play this role, and this data is good for us to keep. How many people were reached? How many people were reached? These numbers are good, so that when you are doing your reporting, the report is not just about making it look as if you are reporting what you are doing, but it's also good for the company to know and to keep records of what they've spent, how many people that have been impacted, and how they can plan for the next year. Customer satisfaction and loyalty is very key. Is a satisfied customer that will give you that repeated patronage. So if your customers are not satisfied, and they will never be loyal to you. So you need to look at that data. We look at the governance data. The governance data, corporate governance and practice is very important. What is the what are the owners of the company and the management? What are they saying? What are they doing? What information do we need? What kind of culture are they bringing into the company, and all of that? This is a very important data, which has the tendency of having both qualitative and quantitative attributes. So we look at the ethical business practices and compliance, very important. So many multinationals that are leaving the country today, they are not leaving not because they don't know how to play the game here, but there are a lot of ethical consideration that they put. I know of a company, which I don't want to mention any name here, that actually left the country for ethical reasons. To clear their consignment in the wharf, they pay 500% more than normal. But some other people just go there and do some handshake, and their goods will pass. But because of the ethical DNA of that company, you're not permitted to do such. So those are the practices we're talking about, and compliance to the International Labour Organization and standards. So transparency and reporting standards, very important, because the governance data is what we use to give direction of. Anyone that does not know how a company is being run in terms of leadership would never want to trade his risk, so also manage his risk of trying to invest in such companies. So sometimes aligning with the wrong company may even cost your career, may even cost your reputation. So it's good for us to be very, very careful in this light in terms of data collection. Then compensations, diversity of the board, when you have the number of males, the number of females, and the likes. These are things that data that is very, very important for us to collect. My time is almost here. Leveraging sustainability data for organizational. I think this will be my last slide. And I'll just quickly run through this. I won't read through this, I'll just run through it because of my time. Leveraging sustainability data for organizational growth is very, very important. These are things you think to be. Number one, improve efficiency. There's a difference between efficiency and the effectiveness. You know, you may be effective but not efficient. So you need to analyze and know the energy and the material injection that is pushed, and the costs also in your operational cycle. Very, very important. So you need to see how you're improving and how you're improving in terms of efficiency delivery of your process, and sustainability data would give you that information. And enhanced brand reputation. This may not be able to, this is another non-quantitative, which is qualitative. Demonstrating commitment to people are attracted to you. There's a brand reputation that the company is doing well. It's a blue chip company. It has a pedigree of its own. It belongs to a class, you know, and that's also drive and also affect their marketing. Then regulatory compliance. This is one of the reasons why so many people keep sustainability data. Not really because they care about this first two I just mentioned, but regulators will come. They're coming to check your facility. They're coming for audits. What will I have to show them? So I have to make sure that my data is intact, because I cannot start cooking data for people to come and see. There is, no matter how a system is, you know, in school, we talk about thermodynamics, and we talk about adiabatic process, whereby there's no heat loss, and that cannot be true in real time. So that is something that there must be some little gaps here and there for your system. So regulators will come in to check and know if you are aligning to the environmental regulations, the safety measures, and the likes. Then investor confidence, very, very important, because investors nowadays, they look at the books, they look at data. Everything now is now ESG oriented. People are now conscious about the environment and now saying, we already invest, make an investment in companies that are ESG aligned. So people will start trying now to bring in the ESG, integrate or implement it in their offices and in their companies and organizations. So for transparency, you need to get your investors to buy into what you are doing. Then also for innovation and differentiation, to inspire new businesses, models, to differentiate you from the competitors in the market field. It's very, very important you keep your data. And stakeholder engagement. This engagement is both internal and external. Internal means your staff and those are working within the company, and externals are your regulators, your host communities, finance, and all of that. This is, you properly engage with them and keep data and records of what they are doing. I would like to, in closing, I would like to say that authentic data can set you free. It can set you free many times and at all times. So always advocate for sustainable practices. Whenever I find myself, I try to advocate for this, and I would like you to join the bandwagon of sustainability advocates. And I would like to thank you for listening. And I know that you definitely have questions to ask. Maybe after this next speaker speaks, we will be online to entertain your questions. Thank you for having me, and relax as my co-speaker takes the floor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for such a great and educative session. I'm sure we all have questions and we've learned a lot. But please, can you join me to give him a round of applause, virtual round of applause, please, for him. Let's see it go up. Let's see it go up. This is a great session, and just to say that we are just getting started, because our next speaker is also coming up. If you think that you heard it all, just know that you've not heard it all. So and I'm sure that we are going to learn more even when our next speaker comes up. Please, Mr. Williams, can you stop sharing your slide?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, our next speaker will be coming up. He's going to be giving us a lot of case studies that will now open our mind into practical data collection, importance of data collections. And I want to just assure you that this our next speaker, he's been in the field for quite a while. He's a great speaker, and obviously I'm sure that from his wealth of experience, we'll be able to learn a lot from him. Just to give a bit background to Mr. Biola, he is a quad sector sorry sector sustainable professional, over 15 years of expertise spanning this financial service, health, international development, public policy, and governance. He has provided technical advisory and support for projects and programs sponsored by World Banks, USAID, DFID, Bill and Mandela Gates Foundation, Qualcomm Wireless Research, UNICEF, and many more. He possesses a diverse educational background from several universities and training institutions, and is driven by his vision to establish sustainable gold brand originating from Africa. He is the co-founder of D. Badili Institute and is currently the Chief Responsibility Officer of Parallel Point Consults. Mr. Biola Oshini has served on boards of multiple nonprofit organizations, providing advisory services on strategy, sustainability, finance, health, education, digital transformation, and technology adoption. Please join me with a round of applause as we welcome Mr. Biola to engage us more in this very thrilling and exciting topic. Mr. Biola, you're welcome, sir. The floor is open for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shadrach. Thank you so much, everyone, and good afternoon from this side of the country and to everybody from wherever you are. It's a rare privilege to be on and speaking to you, and thank you for the previous presentation that we had. Please, could you give me permission to share the screen? Fantastic. Thank you. I want to know if you can see my screen. Please, can you let me know if you can see my screen? Can you see my screen? I don't know if anybody can let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, sorry, it came up and I don't think it's on now. Maybe you can try sharing again.
I'll do that now. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see now. Thank
Fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not in slideshow, so we'll probably have to go the manual way with this. So first off, I want to switch it up a bit and kind of reorient the topic to basically a more actionable topic that we have. So basically driving organizational growth with sustainability data is what I'm going to be speaking about. And we'll be covering, a little bit of introduction, sustainability data means and value. Our speaker, before me spoke highly of a lot of things around, what sustainability data means and the value to it. I will add a few more to it. We're talking about factors that fuel organizational growth. data gathering for sustainability initiatives, utilization of data. We're talking about some interesting case studies, integrating sustainability.
Hello, sir. You are mute. Can you please unmute?
On organizational culture, factors driving corporate sustainability in various industries, and best practices. And I wanted to start with some important facts just to help. So I wanted to just provide a bit of context, using these three codes. And every time we speak about data, every time, one of the things about us is that we speak a lot about data. But the more important use of data is something we sometimes kind of minimize. You can have data without information, but you cannot have information without data. And, those who will rule the world essentially would have data in their hand, which is why today we're in an information age, not just a technology age. That I have the right information, that I have the right data to translate information from data, then translate to better understanding. However, data is not information, information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not understanding, and understanding is not wisdom. Those are three different levels of basically leveraging data for value. Data is a precious thing and will last longer than systems themselves. So the more I have data, the better I have data, the better I'm able to translate that data to information and to action, the longer I can potentially create sustainability fundamentally. Now, I just wanted to establish a bit of background in terms of data and numbers. Currently, we generate more than 300 million terabytes of data every day. And in 1 year, essentially, we're creating 120 zettabytes of data per year. And, this is something we share, you get a sense of it. It is already estimated that we'll be having over 463 exabytes of data that will be generated worldwide by 2025. And there's already projections around the fact that the amount of data we generate will quadruple as the years go by. And why is all of this very important? This has been driven by a lot of innovation in technology, especially within the IoT. IoT space means Internet of Things devices. And in terms of numbers, as of 2017, we just have about 27 billion connected devices. So when you speak about IoT, you're talking about your smartwatch, your mobile phone, your laptop, your refrigerator that is connected on the internet, your smart cars, every single thing that you connect over the internet. So essentially the Internet of Things. And by 2032, we'll be having over 3.4 billion devices connected. It tells you the enormous amount of data you are potentially generating. And, for us not to lose focus, our focus is essentially on sustainability data. One key thing I found out is that there's actually a lot of source of the sustainability data, but one key source I found out, over the years that I've relied on is around the World Bank. The World Bank captures different data elements, especially around ESG, but because ESG is so organizational focused, but there's a lot of data around sustainability that is actually out there. Many times we actually are not looking at it. For instance, if I ask the question that how many of us have looked at the National Bureau of Statistics to look at the poverty index of Nigeria, which is social data. If I said that how many of us has looked at meteorological data based off of the forecast, other than the fact that we want to look at maybe it's going to rain this morning when we stepped out of our various houses or locations, as the case may be. But there's a portal that the World Bank has that is of interest. I just wanted to call out here, which is called the Sovereign ESG Data Portal. It's something you can take a look at, and I just chose to share this as part of, something you can really look at. And it has 70 key sustainability themes spanning environments, social and governance categories. It has data collected, incorporating, data from what we know as the SDGs, and also other indicators. There is plan to begin to put other data elements there, but it's a single source of truth that I wanted to look at when you're looking at ESG data and when you're beginning to look at benchmarks around sustainability data as well. The previous speaker has spoken about methodologies of gathering data, and one of the key things I wanted to just emphasize is essentially that we somewhat are gathering data right now partially, and it may not be essentially intentional. So, for instance, he had mentioned operational data collected as a result of HSE, but there is supposed to be an intentional purpose of building sustainability, which becomes a core function and a core mandate of an organization when it's thinking about not just survival, but actually building transgenerational growth, right? And transgenerational growth is extremely important for African organizations because when we begin to look at how the trajectory of businesses are globally, you begin to see businesses that never before technology existed came and built their capital within the market. So think about your today Facebook ecosystem that has over 2 billion people, over more than approximately 1/3 of the world in that ecosystem. You recall that recently it was called to the US Assembly just so that it doesn't create a singular monopoly with the idea of trying to create a currency. It tells you how much of power just owning data can potentially create. So if an organization is building the right sense, the intentionality about data and translating that data into information, it's able to appropriately position itself for the now and for the future. Every time I speak to organizations, whether financial services, oil and gas, health, there is feeling that data is actually meant for a particular team. Sustainability is a cross-departmental, cross-personal functions. In fact, some of the previous projects that I've worked on is essentially entrenching sustainability into every work function across the value chain of an organization. So it is not about the sustainability team alone. Yes, that might be their primary function, but every single individual in the organization is collecting, generating, contributing, and adding to sustainability and sustainability data as much as possible. In terms of, I've spoken about the idea that sustainability keeps us in the present, future, and prosperity of organizations. I've talked about the fact that sustainability data provides insight into organizations' impact on, people, planet, profit is something that we looked at. There is the conversation around prosperity piece now. Partnerships are conversations that are already entrenched in the idea of sustainability data as well now. The slides will be shared, so I won't go, word for word around the slides. Sustainability is actually beyond compliance because one of the key things I've also seen that is an unfortunate position where organizations find themselves is that they are either trying to meet a regulatory standard. Like the previous speaker said, there are so many standards, global standards that people want to align. So in the name of wanting to look globally compliant, many organizations are looking to build compliance or affiliation to those standards. So in reality, sustainability is beyond compliance, whether for regulation, whether for global standards. It is about building strategic positions. It's about making your organization is asset to economy that you are in and to other economies that are annexed towards you, for instance. It is about the ability to unlock new opportunities that hitherto did not exist as a result of the traditional methodologies of doing business, and then beginning to entrench processes around sustainable development. So for instance, sustainability tells us, and research has established it, that when I unlock the gender bias for populations that have the women and disadvantaged populations, if I build the capacity of those populations or unlock it, I am potentially able to triple the GDP of that economy or that society just because I unlocked it, right? So it then means women that could not work before are able to work and contribute to the economy. It then means people that are disadvantaged or what you would call special people with special needs are now able to contribute to the economy, either to in our traditional methodology where they could not contribute. So it then begins to make you see that how do I then create, because from an organizational framework, you look at people who speak about ESG, you look at people who speak about CSR, you see people speak about sustainability. In as much as these terms mean different things, the connectedness of those terms help us to actually, as much as possible, edge us closer as organizations to building the right track towards sustainability and building a right repository for our sustainability data. He's talked about it in terms of data, sustainability data is, both qualitative and quantitative. And he talked about something that I'm always passionate about, which is employee engagement. Today, there's the problem of equitability of pay, which is a big issue. And that is something that drives a lot of conversation. That drives a lot of conversations around where we are as a country and as global institutions. One aspect of sources of data that he didn't mention, I wanted you to actually talk about, is just essentially the idea of big data and satellite imagery, that can be used for other aspects. So essentially GIS. So I have different data points. How do I overlay it on a map? The other aspect of it is data in public, databases. Like I said at the beginning, the National Bureau of Statistics of every country has data. The migration, International Organization of Migration has data on migration across the world. So they are actually data sets that we can actually use everywhere. One thing about data is that for many years it has been entrenched within certain aspects. So HR operations, and in many cases linked all the way to the chief financing officer of an organization. But there's a new strong emergence and a rise of what you now begin to call a new C-level group. Within the last 10, 15 years, the chief sustainability officer. And sustainability officers have now become the primary custodians of sustainability data, and they potentially are able to make, break, and even forecast the potentials of an organization, even thriving or surviving, the next wave of crisis, just because of the amount of data that the chief sustainability officer actually sits on. In terms of factors that fuel organizational growth, I will speak to broadly three factors, and I just wanted us to look at this to say, how do I begin to drive some processes within the organization? So one key thing is, what exactly is your organizational perspective on sustainability? What's your organization's perspective on ESG? Because many times you find that most people are not, the perspective, like I said at the beginning, is focused on fundamentally just meeting regulatory requirements. But when I begin to move from just the adoption and utilization of data to actually beginning to predict and create a new future, the perspective of corporate sustainability begins to change. Then I'm beginning to talk about an organization that thrives even in crisis. As you very well know, when the stock market is down, there are certain organizations that actually thrive. It then means that there is a level of confidence that is in those organizations. The other is, the adoption of green information systems. And that is just the idea of how do we design and implement information systems to really achieve our environmental objectives. The previous speaker spoke about different tools, different methodologies. What is our green infrastructure as an organization to be able to contribute, to achieve our environmental objectives? Every organization, and I'll speak to that in a bit, to have an environmental objective that connects with the global objective of the nation as a country, of the continent, and of the world, because essentially we live on a planet that we all have a joint objective to actually keep together and then contribute to sustainability business processes. Because I work a lot around technology, I had the idea of the adoption of green innovation technology. And one of the key aspects of it is, how are we fundamentally leveraging technology? Because the rise of technology also tells us that there's a lot of things around heat, Science teaches us that energy is not lost; it's transformed from one form to the other. It then means that if I generate heat and I translate it somewhere else, I would only transform the energy. The energy is still going to be trapped in the same environment. So our IT infrastructure, our computer resources, and all the other resources, as the case may be, how are we ensuring that we're more environmentally responsible and using them in an effective manner? We've talked about data gathering, so I will not speak to that so much. But fundamentally, I just wanted to hash the conversation around the need for us to build the capacity to improve conversations around data analysis. It is not for the lack of data that we don't have. It is not for the fact that we don't actually implement sustainability initiatives. The previous speaker spoke about the idea that we all have CSR budgets. But the truth about it is that what do we really use our CSR budgets for? How do we determine the investments that we are making? What drives the process for our investments and aspects of such things. So we need to be able to ensure that I am not just speaking about the data of I have implemented. I give an example: a maternal health program supporting women to be able to give birth at the clinic. We've supported 100,000 women, and so what? How does that translate to other aspects of the women's life? Why did I pick maternal health? I should be able to answer more questions just beyond the fact that I just invested CSR. And if I'm going to invest again, I will then have better data to make better decisions around it. So there's that factor of us understanding, how to then leverage what we've already collected for better decision making as a people. I've spoken around the idea of big data. Today we have a lot of generative AI. We have a lot of, great data analytical tools, from simple Excel sheets to very advanced, engines that are able to pick big data and use them in very innovative ways, where you can layer a map, you can create predictive analytics on top of all of these things. However, one key thing is every of these engines that we see that is being developed globally are basically developed on models of the West. And I won't spend so much time around that. But there is an understanding that Africa should begin to understand for us by us, and the idea that as a people, when we are building our sustainability initiatives, they should be driven by our sustainability needs and requirements, making it contextually relevant and actually creating the contextual impact that is essentially the real conversation around sustainability. While many organizations are, capturing sustainability, one key aspect we have is, their corporate communications, their disclosures. And I just put this here to speak to a particular very important factor. From experience around sustainability reporting, one thing I want to mention is that I would expect, and this is a proposition I always share with a lot of people I work with, that you have two categories of reports: one that is internal facing and one that is external facing. Yes, while it may seem like you are greenwashing on your external report, your internal report talks about the real things and the real challenges that you want every aspect of your organization to determine. So if you are building, or you have built, or your organization has worked on a sustainability report before, and you are not able to crack the changes, you just have data that you have collected. You've not provided information that can actually be used to make decisions. So can we move from data collection to data aggregation to data analysis, and using that data analysis to inform real actionable policies, leveraging the ESG frameworks that the company has actually chosen to follow to make change within the organizations. And so we just go to a few processes around this. And I just use the schematic to speak about how do we connect the dots between our business model, sustainability materiality, and sustainability business cases. So essentially, your ESG process sits at the top. What is your organizational KPI around the environmental conversations? Each of your environmental components have the process. What is your organizational KPIs around your social, which speaks to diversity? I know an organization that talks about equity in terms of employment. What exactly is your remuneration pattern? Are you an equal opportunity organization? Does your data show that you're an equal opportunity organization? How is your community impact? Then, in terms of governance, this is something that is a very big, deep, big pill for many people to swallow. When we look at the board compositions of many companies, while they speak about equity, I usually look for the representation of, gender representation and the disadvantaged representation sometimes when you begin to look at organizations, depending on what they do. So gender is something that you would look at. What is the ownership of the company? Is this owned by a few and the likes, But lower down, you begin to look at conversations around improvements. It's not just about reporting and disclosure, but how is really about how are you then using those things to create improvements in the organization. Similar to ESR, CSR. Of course, you've spoken about the idea of brand reputation because CSR grows your brand. But what exactly is your driving purpose of CSR? And that's one thing I would want to leave here as well. What drives you to invest money in CSR as an organization? And those things need to be data-driven. So is it focusing around specific sustainability conversations? And how are you measuring those programs internally? Are you engaging your internal champions, your employees? Many organizations have employee-led sustainability programs where they do co-spending, and they have internal sustainability champions that design intervention programs in different places, and the organization then, collaboratively puts money on it. For the sake of, conversation, I would not mention names, but the organizations that will say we want to do something in education, and they will have champions internally that will say we will spend, let me just use for the sake of numbers, 10 million naira in rebuilding a school, and the organization will say we'll match it with additional 10 million naira for you to do more things. From a process point of view, you begin to see that there is more ownership of things, which actually drives employee retention. And it's actually, from the Maslow's hierarchies of needs, when you are looking at self-actualization, which is one of the highest levels of a person's existence, you begin to see employees connected to the vision, mission, and purpose of the organization through their individual ownership of the process. Then, of course, community impact as a key thing. Do you really engage the community? There's an old story of how many people implement intervention programs. There's one classic story in development where an organization decided to put borehole in a town. They went into the town, did the observation, they collected data, right? And their data showed that women were traveling over 50 kilometers, over 20 kilometers to get water by just walking to the stream. And they decided to put a borehole inside the town. But what they discovered after a while was that women were not using that borehole just because of one thing. The women used the opportunity to actually walk to the stream. It was a Muslim community, and the women were in Poda. So they used that opportunity to go to the stream. The walk to the stream was about 1-2 hours, and the walk back was about 1-2 hours. So they used that opportunity to interact with themselves. They valued the interaction, the social engagement with other women, than the fact that the proximity of the water was there. Now, if you look at it, you say they gave them something good, but in reality, it was not what was their actual value. So there was a bit of a gap in community engagement. We've talked about data collections, but just keep a few key things is many times organizations collect sustainability data that is not relevant to them. So if I'm picking a standard, if I'm picking a principle, I should collect data relevant to my organization. One key thing about data is from the data protection law, collect data that is not relevant. That is illegal. That's also something we should understand. So I should be able to also identify other primary source of data and establish processes. Sometimes we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to set up new forms, new processes. Those data sets already exist. The most important thing is how do I aggregate the different data sets? I should be able to engage different stakeholders and establish a seamless, simple collection process. The simpler it is, the better it is. And one of the key things is communicating internally with your organization, what this process is. So many times when people do reporting, like I said, they look at it for compliance, but there's a feedback mechanism that is not established that allows people to be able to see that the data I've provided is supposed to improve my work and make me better. So it creates a sort of internal intelligence and actually informs my decision making because I've given you that data in the first place. So there is supposed to be an established feedback system beyond the fact that, you know, I am building a sustainability reporting, I'm doing reporting. One key thing that organizations are struggling to do a lot is around the science-based emission targets. And I do remember a couple of organizations that were saying, oh, we've been doing sustainability reporting, but right now we're beginning to see how can we translate this to more science, more evidence-based. So the world is asking for real evidence, not just that, oh, I invested 20 billion in CSR. Why did you invest 20 billion in CSR? How did you reduce your emission, you know, your scope 2 emission by 50%? What is guiding your calculation of your scope 2 emission? For instance, as the case may be, how are you driving conversations within your scope 3 emissions that are also science-based at the same time? The other part is how are you ensuring compliance with GDPR? I talked about that and other. And GDPR essentially talks about data confidentiality and how you keep data anonymized, as the case may be, because you're speaking to a lot of clients and, you know, they are giving you their data in trust. One key thing is also then ensuring data security, which is a big thing. I was reading an article, it was talking about how the world is dealing with the conversations around AI. And one key thing that came up is that cybersecurity and data security will increase over the years and increase better confidence. But we need, as professionals, to guarantee that trust because we are holding the trust, we are holding the data in trust for different people. One key thing also is the fact that data is already, there are different data channels, and this just gives you some examples of infrastructure that you can use. And many organizations already have this, from Salesforce, Workday, that you can integrate with, and then use quite a number of APIs. Don't worry, if you don't have the very high-tech infrastructure, Excel can be made tech. You can build dashboards in Excel. You don't have to have all the best surveys. There are hundreds of thousands, if you let me say, of survey tools that you can use, or you can basically create a manual entry process. The most important thing is, I think you should build from small and you then begin to scale. Because sustainability data collection or sustainability data management requires a lot of budget. And in many cases, I've seen that people don't dedicate the amount of budget to it. However, my 2 cents around that is sometimes when you show the proof with data, with actionable information that helps your, the management team, people begin to see the value of investing more money around, sustainability data collection and the processes. And then ensure that you improve, continuously improve your data, the quality of those data, and see how the data sets can be, better used. So let's go to a simple case study. Basically, looking at a clean energy project. And, the essential part of this project was looking at how do you reduce different footprints of energy. And, this kind of created the process of saying, I want to transition from my traditional energy process to a more hydrogen-based, eco-friendly method of generating energy. I don't know how many of us know about different methods of generating alternative energy, but hydrogen is also one of the sources that is being looked at. How do you then create better energy processes? And just looking at the process of generating hydrogen, for instance, in the second place, you see gasification, steam methane reformation and carbon capture and storage, pyrolysis, and of course, electrolysis of water. And you can almost see that on the very last end, you see that electrolysis of water, it seems like the most valuable process with limited footprint. And because that process will allow for you to maintain the texture, the nature of water. For those of us that had a bit of chemistry background, once hydrogen is gone, you can basically convert hydrogen in the air with oxygen, will automatically create H2O and other materials again. We fundamentally see that you can recreate water forms on the back end. So you can actually have a sustainable energy process. So this kind of process allows you to look at the different energy forms and kind of look at them and see how you can compare them. So you can see coal, of course, which creates gasification, is the dirtiest, if you let me use that word, form of energy creation. And if you look at the last point of, any renewable energy source fundamentally creates better, points of better, cleaner energy for conversations for us. Now, I keep saying this: Nigeria is more a gas country than a crude oil country. However, we've not tapped into our natural gas as much as possible. While that is being said, gas is just a transition fuel. But the idea for us around using gas reduces us from the lower end of the emissions. Now, so if you were considering working in that space, automatically, connecting to conversations around natural gas is a good idea, but a better idea is actually connecting around renewable energy, as the case may be. And that then brings us into something I want us to be able to look at specifically. And I'm looking at it from a strategic point of view for organizations. When many organizations are introducing or integrating sustainability, what they are focusing on is essentially just setting up the departmental structures, collecting the data. But for more importantly, there is a key component of knowledge management around the spectrum of the organization. There needs to be, a clear roadmap shared within the organization of saying, this is where we are, this is where we want to be in the next 3 to 4 years, and this is how we plan to actually get there. Of course, things can change, but more importantly, there needs to be that key knowledge management process within the room. Now, this is not saying that other things will not happen, but these 3 things are things that should be really flanked and highlighted. Secondly, top management needs to actually make commitment to sustainability. And because at the end of the day, it will be very difficult for top management or for things to happen without top management commitment to actually happen, for certain things to actually happen in the organization if top management is not committed to it. The last part is also there is a process of ensuring that organizational performance is influenced by factors like green human resource management. And what exactly is green human resource management? It is impossible for you to employ people that are not environmentally compliant. So that means either you build internal programs for training people on sustainability, or you employ people that already have the knowledge, the background, or have, kind of experienced something things around sustainability, because it's going to become a critical part of your process, in the whole process. We talked about green innovation systems actually being put in place. I do recall an organization that talks about that despite the fact that they don't actually create any product, like digital products or any product, they're a service organization. One of the things that they've done is they have created internal challenges that their team builds green innovations, and those green innovations are now used to drive sustainability in the organization, or are given to other people to actually create value points in terms of innovations that can be used. So let me give you a typical example. One of the things they had created was what you call super apps. And it just came from, one of the teams in the organizations that said, oh, we want to be able to access all our banking services in one place. And they created something like that and just launched it. And it wasn't from them, they just gave it to another organization to help them do that. What was that about? They were looking at creating something that was simple, easy, in one place where I could actually put all my banking apps in one place. We all know how nifty our phones are, and you don't need to actually download all your banking apps. You just download one app and you can have access to all of your banking apps. It may seem like a simple process, but that alone increases your productivity as a person. And on the back end, imagine if that was actually implemented by a financial services organization in Nigeria, it's talking about collaboration, but essentially they are able to own their space a lot better. So they are more entrenched in your mind. So sustainability, doing good through sustainability is good business, fundamentally. Sustainability data cultivates innovation, just within the team, in your organization, but also you are able to build that social change fundamentally that you potentially may be wanting to achieve. You are looking at as a company to be able to create. I give a typical example. Why would an organization live on a street or function business on a street, and waste management is a problem on that street, and the organization does not see that waste management is on the street, and we focus on it as its government? Meanwhile, maybe as a customer, I am not coming to your street, to patronize you all the time, just because of the waste management problem I see on your street. You will not be able to attract, the luxury high-end kind of clientele, to visit your office, to do business with you, and say, okay, this organization seems like one of reputable standard. Or imagine you had a global investor that was coming to your organization and they found rubbish on your street, just like that. So as simple as waste management is a problem of the local government, there's no reason why. I have seen many organizations say, I don't want to engage government because they will increase my tax. That is a risk. But there's a bigger risk of you losing certain kind of clientele just because of your own processes. Whether we want to agree to it, there is a lot of conversations around the impact of sustainability data on organizational culture. You're building transparency, you're building trust, you are demonstrating commitment, to social responsibility, to environmental responsibility. You are being more proactive around risk management. You are basically creating right safeguards that build your reputation and also improves your financial performance. Before the COVID, one of the things that we saw, looking at specific analysis on the stock market in the US, was that organizations that have actually embedded sustainability into them already were able to ride the wave of the COVID. So they already had integrated the idea of work from home principles, probably once a day in a week. They just scaled it up. Organizations that were already providing employee support to set up workstations at home to work from home, it was easy for them to switch to work from home mode, which essentially allowed them, if you go and check, even in Nigeria, some of the companies in the financial services sector actually declared a lot of profit, despite it was an economy that was supposed to be going down, because people still went on transacting, they started working from home, and it showed you the fact that they leveraged technology a lot faster. There was mobile banking, there was, e-transfers. It didn't stop the business of the financial services sector to stop. So it essentially meant that data had already been used to be able to create the fact that we need to embrace technology. Whilst we're embracing technology, let's improve on the way our staffs are being treated. Let's put certain things in place as an organization. And those things were things that organization ruled. Those are adopted list. It showed in the kind of financial performance they had on the stock market. Sustainability always helps us bring a lot of cost savings. Energy is a big thing. Energy consumption is a big problem in Nigeria. And we know many times that we spend a lot of money on alternative energy, whether for diesel fuel or other costs. But the moment I know how my energy consumption is, I'm able to determine the places where, the levels of my costs are. So people adopt energy saving bulbs. Sometimes they model their cost over a period of 10 years and invest that cost into alternative energy like solar power, wind power, or a combination of alternative energy, and it creates automatic cost savings for them. You look at the idea of operational efficiency, where sometimes as an organization, you look like, can I actually lease out some of the areas of my services rather than, or co-warehouse somebody's service rather than having to say the other person, essentially selling out or leasing out some of my competencies. Those are, cost-saving operational efficiency models that allows, better revenue and unlocking new opportunities that either did not exist before as an organization. And that's because you are thinking from a sustainability or a sustainable practice. And because of time, I'll just say, these slides are going to be shared with us. It is very important that as we embark on the sustainability journey, as we are collecting data and transforming those data to information, it is important for us as organizations and as people that work in organizations to set clear sustainability goals that align. The key word here is that align with our organizational objectives. Company A cannot set goals that align with company B. Company A and company B are different. The organizational culture is different, and it is important that they must align. While we may want something to change, the first point is you start from where you are, right? The previous speaker said that when should we be collecting sustainability data? We should collect it today. I would say that you already have some level of data. The idea is, how are you using the data in your hand, and how are you harnessing, optimizing, or maximizing the data that you currently have? The second part is then begin to invest in that, robust data collection, measurement, and reporting system, that we both have shared. It is important for you to be able to map your critical stakeholders. Double materiality talks about the different stakeholder groups. Your RACI assessment allows you to be able to understand, how do you engage with your different stakeholders. But more importantly, you then begin to need to foster the culture of sustainability throughout the organization. From the cleaner to the CEO, you should be able to communicate sustainability. I should be able to see in your character, attitude, and even in your goal, mission, and vision as an organization, what your culture of sustainability is. You then begin to see aspects of where you can leverage the sustainability data to drive growth, innovation, and resilience. And it is something that happens not just by stroke of faith, but the intentionality of the fact that I have set clear goals. You begin to build some aspects of your organizations that were not there, and resilience begins to grow. And then let sustainability become a part of the organization through and through. That way, one of the things we began to see is that when you begin to map organizations around the world, organizations that have stepped up their class with sustainability begin to connect with like-minded organizations globally, beyond just signing, maybe the UNFCCC or UNGC. Beyond that, what happens is that, when you speak of organization in the same class, you begin to see organizations gravitate to, let's call them class A, class B. And those in class A will know themselves globally. And you become connected to, different global high level, what you see organizations in the world. One way I would like to conclude around it is that whether the integration of big data or conversations around our Industry 4, where we are talking about Internet of Things, or eco-innovations, as different concepts within organizations, it is important for us to recognize that there is now a synonymous, almost direct relationship within the embracing of innovation, organizational performance, and also sustainability within an organization. While, like I said at the beginning, while data, sustainability data is a key imperative for driving growth right now, as we go into, more aspects of Industry 4, more aspects of, as we go to our decade of action, 2030, as we close out on things around the SDG, it is important for us to begin to be more intentional about the kind of strategies, we begin to build in our organizations. And many times we say strategies sit in the domain of those at the top, but strategy really sits in the domain of everybody across the organization. So you can inspire strategy from where you are. My question would be, how are you using the data in your hands? How are you then begin to query the data to be able to build a sustainable future for your office and for the organization that you work in? It is important for us to then begin to look at things more holistically and drive and inspire leadership, a more sustainable culture, leveraging a lot of aspects of how are we building capacity internally and externally across our stakeholders around the knowledge of sustainability, and ensuring that our long-term goal, of one, building a sustainable planet, two, building a vibrant Africa, and three, building global organizations of African origin is actually kept in check. Thank you, and let's go together to build organizations that are globally relevant leveraging our capability as sustainability professionals together. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions and connecting with you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been indeed a great conversation and it's almost like a training for today. Just because of our time, please let's give a round of applause to our speaker. He has done so well in giving context to this topic. I want to see more hands up. Please, let's appreciate him. It's actually, yes, it's actually worth it. Okay, just to so that we don't waste so much of our time, we are almost rounding up. I would like to check if we have any questions. Please, if you have any questions, just raise your hands, or if you can't do that, you can type it on the chat box. So I'll wait the questions, just 1 or 2 questions before we wrap up for today. So if you have any questions for any of the speakers, they are still available for us to react to our questions around the subject matters. So please let's ask. If you have any comment or observation, can please raise up your hand so that we can do justice to them. Okay, I can see Mr. Shitu raising up his hands. Please, can you unmute and ask your questions? Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Please,
Good afternoon.
am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
All right. So, it's been an excursion for me, and I really want to thank both facilitators. They did excellently well. And just like the moderator said earlier, it's more like a training, sincerely speaking, because the amount of information that we've been able to, garner from this session is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I just want to throw this question out there. I've gained so much from both insights from the 2 facilitators. For core health and safety professionals that are battling with, crossing into sustainability full-fledged, I would like to hear from both speakers. What do you think is the best way for core occupational health and safety professional to cross into, I know social sustainability, health and safety is also part of, the whole of sustainability. But for someone that wants to go into sustainability full-fledged, can you please advise on how best to go about this? Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I'm happy to respond to that. Yes, so I can almost say that sustainability is a multi-dimensional, multi-sector field of endeavor, if you let me say that. It has, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a medical practitioner, and when you begin to move it from just ESG, from the concept of ESG, which is really focused on organizational growth, fundamentally, and responding and building resilience as an organization, to building sustainability, in a more holistic manner, you begin to see the multidimensional nature that you need to bring to this. So for instance, your communication skills will become enhanced because you now need to engage with multiple stakeholders and try to sell your desire and your vision of sustainability to them, which would have been a public relations conversation fundamentally. So, just as to cap this, it's a multidimensional. There can be a movement, and I must say that your skill set that you have currently is as important as the skill set of someone that has a full-fledged environmental background. I think the most important thing is the passion, the willingness to learn, and the fact that you are able to leverage the resources that you have right now. I always say internet is your friend, and there's almost nothing you can begin not to learn first from the internet. I also then say that you are always 3 steps to everything that you potentially need in life. What does that mean? If you look on your LinkedIn, if you look on your Facebook, if you look in your neighborhood, there are people you can network with that can help you on the sustainability journey to transitioning to a sustainability professional. And I wish you all the best. And I hope to hear from you in some time. Maybe you become a chief sustainability officer of a global organization in the very near future. Over.
Okay. I also have a perspective to discuss on this. So many times I don't know. There is this cultural divide. Let me that cultural divide in terms of professionalism. People in engineering or people in occupational health and safety, they tend to distance themselves and tell you that I'm not sustainability, I'm not this. So first of all, I think you need to break that cliche of not belonging to this into the fold. Sustainability is a multidimensional field, and every part, even in the occupational health and safety, the industrial hygienist sees himself as a professional. Someone in, it's something that we need to look at. How do you leverage the advantage in the substance? So you choose the area you want to play. No, everybody cannot play in the whole 360-degree aspect of it. For example, I came into the ESG space from reporting, and I've done reporting for over 7 years, and I've done reporting for multinationals too. So that was how I came in, even though I had an engineering background, but I came in from that route. And before I knew what happened, I got into organizational. I did near misses, signages, and other things for GSK and the like. So it's are things that we should open our hearts. You are already one leg in. Let me put it that way. You're already in the system. All you need to do is to get more information, attend more webinars like this, read up on your own, and network. And before you know, happen opportunities. And there's something about this business which I've come to understand is that look at it from the barest definition which I gave earlier on, that sustainability is your ability to sustain something. So it depends on the process you are sustaining. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, sorry. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I think you tackled that. So we have Mr. Odufi Adewale's hands raised. Do you want to unmute and ask a question or your comments?
Okay, thank you very much to both speakers. You've both done fantastically well. I've been so impressed. This is more of an educational period for me. So I just want to ask one very important question. What will definitely be the key performance index one would use to measure or calculate one's performance in a company on the issue of sustainability?
Okay, any of the speakers can react to that.
Okay, let me just give you the KPIs I think, and this is subject to companies, because companies differ in terms of their goals. So it's what is the company's environmental, social, and governance goal as an entity, and by so doing, there'll be some matrix in terms of knowledge. So you can have like a checkbox, and that's why I said sustainability. So if you look at my slide, I said something about human resource there. The human resource play an important role in terms of your appraisal to know if you have a full understanding of what the company is trying to do. How many courses have you done in line with where the company is trying to go? That's one of your KPIs. How many exhibitions or how many seminars have you attended? And how have you applied the knowledge you've gained in the system? And what are the measurable outcomes of that? So this is just a simple 5 on the spot matrix I can use to examine to know how to measure your metrics in terms of your integration into the ESG or sustainability of your company. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I do agree with the previous speaker, and one key thing I just wanted to add to it is KPIs sometimes are self-led. While we recognize that they are standards, you should also be able to drive specific KPIs. So for instance, I give an example. If an organization, let's use gender equality, or let's say pay parity, because we're speaking a lot around HR. If an organization says we want to be able to ensure that we are creating equal opportunity and equal pay for all gender and across board, as the case may be, they set a target, they set a time, and they set the sequence of metrics of measuring that. So it must be specifically defined based off of the context and the relevance to the dynamics within the specific organization, because that's really what you report on, not what another organization is doing. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that response. I want to believe that that had answered your question, Mr. Diwali.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Dari. Justice was done on the question. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, so we have Miss Prescott. I don't know if she wants to. Miss Priscilla Obot. Please, you can
Okay,
unmute
so
and answer.
good afternoon, everybody. I'm
Good afternoon.
the speakers. God, you guys were awesome, and you even took the conversation further than I even expected. One of the speakers made mention about sustainability being value creation, being able to influence an organization and everybody in there, including cleaners. I'm not here to actually ask a question, but to emphasize on one of those things he mentioned. I totally agree with that because just lately I rolled out a training for everybody in my BU on sustainability, and people were like wondering how do they contribute or how do they interact with sustainability, or at the end of the day, I was impressed when security, third-party workers, cleaners could actually see from that lens that they are actually sustainability managers too, but in their own location. How do I mean? I want to draw attention to this, including what was said previously, like sustainability managers are their risk managers, but beyond risk, they are also impact drivers. Like Mr. Abiola said, what you are doing CSR, what are the impact you want to create? Sustainability managers are also opportunity creators. They through driving impacts, they are creating opportunities that were probably not there. And in doing that, they've created that impact. Remember, they manage risks, they drive impact, and they also create opportunity for the organization and for people they impact lives, not just the businesses alone, but those even working in the business. So now, which means it cuts across everybody, HR, quality, technicals, everybody. In my current organization, as a sustainability person, my role cuts across everybody. Everybody is my stakeholder. One way or the other, we connect. And we connect through data acquisition. And now it is also true what Mr. Abiola says, when you collect data, if you don't give people feedback about what you use that data for, or that data translates into, they might just be nonchalant about it. But if you're able to make people understand, oh, this your data, this is what I was able to translate it into, and this is the risk we are currently operating at, and the impact it could generate. You see, they begin to own that process too. So thank you very much, speakers. I did learn a lot of stuff today, and one of my take home today is that Mr. Biola took my perspective away from the normal sustainability reporting. He said that it should be in two lenses, the external one and the internal one. Meaning, most of us, we collect data, then we report it maybe monthly to management team probably. That is also a sustainability report somehow. You're reporting on how those data translate in sustainability wise. So then much more our normal annual sustainability reports. How do we engage stakeholders and let them understand where we are in the picture so we could get that place we want to be in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're having more people's hands. We have Mr. Julius, teacher. I think that'll be the last question for today so that we can round up. You can unmute and ask your question, Mr. Julius.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you. It was a very insightful webinar, and basically, I think I just want to make a little bit of contribution. Like, I want to address most of those my brothers who were talking from the occupational health and safety, and asking how they can transition into sustainability. And if they could see, just look back like yesterday, we're celebrating the World Health and Safety Day, and we're talking about climate change, how climate change is affecting occupational health and safety. So now, that automatically try to make a point out to every occupational health and safety practitioner or professional that you are also equally responsible for sustainability. You're also equally responsible for what is going to happen as far as sustainability is concerned. Like all our facilitators, they're talking about the ESG, and we know that environmental and social governance is one of the things that we need to drive. Every organization needs to drive that. It needs to be in the core of their processes, their procedures, and their policies. Because once this one is missed out, once we try to distinguish that from our key processes, it becomes a challenge. So that means as an HSC practitioner or an environmentalist or an ESG practitioner, we need to be able to make sure that we follow up on the trend and also be able to get data for ourselves. Because like they said, when you get data is for what? To make informed decisions. So if you don't know, how do you then make informed decisions? So that is to tell us that it doesn't matter whose sphere where you find yourself. Like we are saying, whether you are in finance, you are in whatever, sustainability is the goal. Sustainability is what we should be driving at. So with that, I want to say thank you to all those who have taken out their time to give us this lecture. It was really, really insightful, and I appreciate you all. And I say God bless you and thanks very much.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that is as much as we can take today in terms of the questions. I think the last point of the agenda is we have also made a special provision for some certificate of appreciation to be awarded to the speakers. So please, can you all join me and celebrate them? Mr. Engineer Williams Asinta, I want to say thank you. If we can get round of applause from our audience just to encourage and appreciate them for job well done. I'm sure we're all happy and we have all gained one or two things from this lecture. So thank you so much, Mr. Williams, and we'll also be sending these certificates to you in due course. Thank you. And also to our second speaker, Mr. Abiola Oshuni, we also say thank you. And we'll also be presenting these certificates to you just to say appreciation for coming and sharing your wealth for in the webinar. This will also be sent to you in due course. Thank you so much. Once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us in this webinar series. As you all know, Chevron as a company is always looking forward to engaging young minds and also industry minds in core areas of environment, sustainability, and governance, as well as the emerging trends of the ESG. And as our usual culture, we engage us in webinars such like this. So I want to say thank you for coming and participating. To all our participants, we salute you for your time. We spent close to 2 hours and we still have most of us are joined still present. I want to say thank you for that. So but before we go, I would want to crave your indulgence. I'll stop sharing now. If we can all on our videos so that we can just take a picture, a screenshot of the attendance for people that are present today. If you can please on your video and just to have it well documented. I'll just give like a minute for everyone to on their videos. Yes, thank you. So I'm sure the public engagement guys are also there to do justice. Please just let me know if you've done that. Yeah, Mr. Adewale, are you there? Can you tell me if that has been done? I know we are still having people turning on their videos. Let's just
Yes,
give them.
that has been done. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay. So once again, thank you all for joining. From my end, I want to say thank you once again, and we look forward to another exciting topic, another exciting period where we'll have more time to discuss and also delve into the world of environment and sustainability. And just like I always say, when you talk about data, information, and generating, gathering, it's everybody's responsibilities. So take that as you also go out today and keep ensuring that even at home, we practice good ESG as well as have good records in terms of keeping this flag flying. It all begins with every one of us. So from my end here, I'm saying thank you and salute. So see you all in our next session. Thank you all. Yeah, cheers.